right, we're getting ready here for round 2, and we're going to kick it off with Mark Lilienthal, whose presentation is Burgundy wine. So simple, so beautiful, so complicated. Mark.
Messieurs, dames, bonsoir. Petite question à vous poser. Tout d'abord, qui serait intéressé par la possibilité de devenir un véritable expert dans le vin de Bourgogne dans 6 petites minutes? Here's a guarantee for you from this former wine guide in France. When we're done, everyone in this room will be more knowledgeable about Burgundy wines than 99.99% of the world's population. Yes, that includes the French. Burgundy is a magical, beautiful, charming, daunting region in eastern France. Tonight, we're going to divide it into 3 categories: good news, bad news, and really bad news. But let's start with the good news. In order to become an expert in this, one only has to master 2 fundamental facts. The first of which is that when we are talking about drinking, celebrating, and enjoying white Burgundy wine, we are talking about wine grown from 100% Chardonnay grapes. And when we are talking about red Burgundy wine, we are talking about 100% Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir for red, Chardonnay for white, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. Your accent may vary, but the facts never change. The most famous corridor is called the Route des Grands Crus, which runs north to south in this region, which produces only 2.6% of France's overall wine output and just a paltry 0.4% of global production. The harvest happens in late summer, early fall, typically by hand, by small winemakers who run family operations, sometimes operating with only 1 or 2 or 3 rows in a single vineyard. This is my friend Jean-Baptiste celebrating the end of the 2014 harvest. Isn't it amazing that after only a few slides, we all know what type of grape he is holding in his left hand because we've been paying close attention. We divide the wines into 4 different categories. We start with the bottom of the pyramid, which is the regional wines. We take a grape from over here and a grape from over here, and we mash them up and we make them into the same bottle, and we call it regional wine. As we go up the pyramid, things get a little bit more complicated. But for now, before things get off the rails here, let's remember the first 2 rules. When we're talking about white wine, we're talking about Chardonnay grapes. And when we're talking about red wine, we're talking about Pinot Noir, right? So far, so good? Yeah, I know. And you can feel that shoe is out there, hanging in midair, getting ready to tumble down with its inexorable thud, signaling the arrival of the dreaded bad news. Because there are over 100 names that we call Burgundy wines, and very few of them are Chardonnay, and even fewer are Pinot Noir. So if you look at the constellation of words on these labels, only the trained and expert and experienced eye in Burgundy would know that they all come from this region. Next up the pyramid, we have our village wines, in this case, Chablis, which is made from Chardonnay grapes, all grown inside the town of Chablis. If it were a red wine from Volnay, we would call it a Volnay, named after the village. Okay? As we continue to climb, we get into the Premier Cru. And the premier cru, we've gone from regional to village. We're now in a specific parcel, in a specific village, in a very specific region of eastern France where we make Burgundy wines. And then at the very tip of the pyramid, we get to what's called Grand Cru, which come from some of the most venerated soils in all of wine. Here at the top, the true wine nerd or the Burgundy aficionado can amuse themselves memorizing all 33 names for just the Grand Cru. That's a lot. But the good news is we don't need any of that information to enjoy Burgundy wine. We just swirl, sniff, and sip. Anybody over the age of 21 can do it. It's really not that complicated. But at the top, we talked about good news, bad news, and really bad news. These are the 8 most expensive wines in the world. You guessed it, they all come from Burgundy. In fact, 45 of the 50, according to one recent survey, do. Recently, at a celebratory event, my wife had the great pleasure of drinking this Grand Cru. She brought the bottle home as a souvenir, inspiring my jealousy. We estimated its cost at $6,000. She did not pay for it, and we are still married. But fear not, Burgundy wine need not send us to the poorhouse or even to this graveyard in the middle of the vineyards of Burgundy. With strategic buying and proper storage, it can lead to decades of enjoyment, fun, and pleasure around a table and in a glass. I hope that after our time here together, you'll find some time in your life to experiment and explore and enjoy these fine nectars. But please don't tell anybody else. They're expensive enough already. Merci beaucoup.